This is the Bull Session, a weekly recap of your 2025 Philadelphia Phillies. Broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's, tonight's show is brought to you by Team Toyota, BCWSA, Fogo de Show, Penn Community Bank, Chickies and Pete's, and the Capitol Grill Center City. Now, here are your hosts, Phillies Director of Fun and Games, John Brazer, and Tommy Greene.
All right, welcome to the Bull Session presented by BCWSA, live from Chickies and Pete's in South Philly. I'm John Brazer, Director of Fun and Games of Fighting Phils, joined by my co-host, Tommy Greene. Tata, what's up, buddy?
How you doing, pal? You traveling Wilbury?
You're
all over the place.
Well, you too, man.
Not me.
You were in Belize, and you were.
Well, I mean, that was earlier.
All right.
You go about as much as. Oh no, not I can't say Wendy, but.
Well, yeah, Wendy's a professional, your wife. But no, I was down in Charlottesville, Virginia, and yes, I did. It was a celebration of life for a friend of mine who unfortunately passed away, and went down to my.
I didn't know that was why you were down there.
Yep, I went to.
That's awesome.
But they had it was a good celebration of life, and I'd rather say that because it was that. And it was my buddy Ibbs, who you know. We went on vacation together.
And he's in a band.
All of us. He's in a band called Indecision. The guy who passed away, his favorite band is Indecision. That was big back in the 90s down in Charlottesville. And I stayed with my buddy Ibbs. And Ibbs,
That's a dangerous thing.
Ibbs
Brace.
had a Bucky. Remember, Bucky's? The big, it's like a mega wall down in South Carolina.
Okay. Yeah,
and literally, they have a beef jerky, like, huge display where you can get probably 30 different kinds of beef jerky.
That's awesome.
Like maple, bourbon, lemon, pepper, like every kind.
I could go throw a lounge chair there and hang out.
Yes, you could. And it's unbelievable. The barbecue, they got everything in there. Well, anyway, their mascot is a Bucky the Beaver. And I was Bucky the Beaver. I got it.
You showed me the video.
He had a onesie, and I sang Joe Cocker at this party, feeling all right in a Bucky the Beaver outfit, while two of my buddies were in B outfits. I have no idea why they were in B outfits. I have no idea why I was in a Bucky the Beaver outfit.
I know,
but
you were feeling all right.
But I was feeling all right. Exactly right. So, all right, we got a great show today because our guest is one of our favorites, Brandon Duckworth. What's up, Brandon?
Oh, not much. Just trying to live the dream.
You are living the dream because we're going to go through your career because obviously you played for the Phils, you played for the Royals, you played for the Astros, you played in Japan. Right? You played with Aaron Rowan in college.
How was that?
Exact same as what he is right now.
Oh, my God.
Other than he's a little older and moving a little slower.
Right.
But he was phenomenal. We had so much fun.
Did he play with reckless abandon like a running back in football?
Yeah.
I mean,
right?
He's pretty much.
He probably came out of the womb in a reckless abandon.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Right. That's one of my all-time favorites.
He is such a great.
By the way,
dude.
do you guys pair up? I didn't think about that. Did you guys pair up down at fantasy camp?
Well, we paired up, and then we got split up, and then paired up again because moving around and whatnot. And,
Well, sometimes guys can't make it. They have to readjust.
Yeah.
And they try to put two guys with the team, and like when DJ went down with his health problems, they had nobody for me. So I was a lone wolf.
But you were solo, huh?
Yeah, I was solo.
But I didn't realize that that you guys. I forgot that you guys played together. So that's a perfect pairing down there.
Oh yeah, it was great. I mean, I tell you what,
you laugh more than down there with Rowan. Yeah,
he's phenomenal, and he's the same guy. He's a lovable guy that's just crazy, and he loves to talk. And you put the quarter in, it's gonna go.
It's gonna go.
It's gonna keep going and going and going.
Except now it's $1.50.
Yeah. All right, we have a lot to talk about because your job now. Other than being the husband of Janine, who's soon to be a doctor, congratulations.
Oh, yes, she's phenomenal.
And congratulations for you, pal.
And the dad of 3 kids, including twins. And I think they're also a swimmer. One is a swimmer, at least.
Yeah, one of the twins is a swimmer. The other one, she's a dancer, so she loves to do all of that. And the oldest is a swimmer who's going to be going to college to swim. And then
that is great.
Well, that's awesome.
That is great. Yeah. And as you know, swim meets are not exactly fun as a parent because you got to sit in a really hot gym in the cold of winter, and you got to take off the layers, and you sit on a bad concrete bench, and your kid might swim like 4 times in a span of 4 hours. So you watch like a 30-second event, and then you got to sit for another hour until the next event.
So you're lucky to see, depending on the day, maybe anywhere from a minute to 3 minutes of swimming, and then you're like, okay, we got to come back tonight because they did well enough to come back for the finals, and then you're like, okay, here we go. That moves a little quicker, so you're just kind of like.
Is that the epitome of watching paint dry?
Having
to wait like that.
Well, it's really fun when you're watching your kid race.
Well, I know
it's in between.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you're literally watching paint dry.
Depending though, then there's some kids that are unbelievable that are going to be potential Olympians.
Right.
And so you're watching them just blow everybody out.
And swimming is really fun. Like most
it's
people watching
really
the
cool.
Olympics, but it's really fun when you.
Like if you watch the Olympics, you know how we all get. I'm like, oh man, these people are amazing. But the amount of work that they put in,
it's unbelievable. Watch how they swim.
I don't get it. It's a mental. I tell you what, mental toughness is huge in that.
I'm like first cousin to The Rock, you know.
Right.
I mean, it takes effort for me to stay afloat, you know.
Oh, you're a big boy.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
bubbles don't bounce.
Well, I'm not a whale.
Right.
Well, when you're solid,
I don't have blubber.
Well, I was going to say, when you're solid muscle, you tend to sink quick.
Well, so my daughter is a swimmer, and I remember like first time when she was like 6 years old, I had to do a meet. And something you have to volunteer. I'm sure you had to do
timer, huh?
Or either timer or something else. Well, they're going through all these expressions, and I don't, it's going way over my head because I don't know swimming. And they're like, this is one of these races is going to be a hot heat. No idea what a hot heat is. So-and-so. And one of the things they said, someone's got to be on the timer and someone's on the plunger, right? So I'm sitting there going, plunger in my head. I'm thinking, and my daughter's 6 years old. I'm like, plunger what? So if the kid does a poop in the pool, I got to run down there. I got to get down in the pool and get it out.
That never fails.
Only Brazer.
I was going to say, total Brazer.
I had this
right
look
there.
in my face like, plunger, man. Why did I get stuck with a plunger?
As long as I'm not sitting there writing all the times down,
you pulled
I'm good.
a dollar bill right
That
there.
was a dollar bill. So that was my last time doing the plunger. All right, and we also have, you are a scout for the Yankees.
Yes.
That's impressive. That's some stuff I want to know, how you look at things.
Well,
man.
I want to get through because I want to basically talk about what that day-to-day is like.
Yeah.
And then I pulled up some scouting reports on some famous baseball players, and it's pretty interesting to see like the scouting reports, the initial reports. And we're talking superstars, and because you got to find flaws, right? So they're a lot of them are very positive. Mostly like Jeter was pretty much all positive, but there are some like I'll go into Oral Hershiser's, Greg Maddux, where they found these flaws and weren't sure whether these guys are going to be, because I know in the NFL and the NBA, you pretty much, because in college is basically our minor league system, right? You can see but you see them on TV all the time, so you can kind of see who's going to be for the most part, who can be a great pro player, NBA or football. Baseball, it's a crapshoot because guys get hit for 500, but they're playing in a Chicago urban league, and maybe it's not the greatest pitchers, so the hitters' numbers are exaggerated, or it could be somewhere else in somewhere part of the country that's not big in baseball.
Yeah.
So it's
sort of like where I grew up. I mean, I was a big fish in a small pond.
Right.
You're facing up here. There's a lot of good athletes up here. You get to face good competition. They don't get to play as much as we had, but I mean, still. It kind of works a little bit hand in hand a little bit. I mean, just because you're a small community like we were, don't mean you ain't got good athletes
right.
down there too. So that's the eyes of the scout. That's the tough job, is to be able to kind of put them in their category or.
And that's the tough part because they're all so young. Like for me, I see a little bit of that. I don't get to go to the high schools and such.
Yeah, you're more
around
the pro
here.
scout.
You're pro
I'm
side.
on the pro side.
So they're already up.
They're already signed to a minor league deal, but I still go down to, say, the Dominican, and I'm watching 16-year-olds, and you're just like, whoa, this
raw
is
talent, man.
Raw. So you're looking for just big, raw tools that can just jump out at you, and sometimes it's just like, this is a gut feel type of a guy.
Right.
The numbers may not equate, but those numbers aren't really mattering early on in those stages.
Yeah, I mean,
because people get caught up on numbers. A lot.
Well, you got to look at the heart too. Like, so you might have all the tools. You might be able to throw a 95-mile-per-hour fastball. You might be able to do this, but it's also like who has that drive? Who has that Greg Maddux bulldog mentality? Right.
Whether it's that or the intestinal fortitude, as we say.
Right.
It's when I talk with little kids. I said, or high school guys. I said, guys, you never know who's going to be at a ball game.
Right.
I said, people are going to watch you play. I said, but there's going to be people there when you don't know they're there looking to see what you do when you're not playing.
Right.
See
100%.
who you are. and how you act and what you do off the field. They're hunting to talk to people because if you've got talent on the field, they're going to be looking because they're looking to invest money, and they're really backgrounding you.
And not only on the professional side, but the collegiate kids, because those college coaches, they want team. They're team first, right? And they're looking at the kid that's making their mom or dad get them drinks and how they treat their parents, how they treat their teammates. Like if one of their teammates may not be the best player on the team or whatever, how does he react when, how does the prospect, quote unquote, how is he reacting when he's not the one having the big hit, making the big play, making the big pitch? Like if he's a team guy. Right, and once you go into college, that's huge, what it is, right? So you have the collegiate aspects where your team, blah, 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 but then you get into pro ball, it's team, but it's still me because I'm competing against all of them to try to leapfrog to get to that major league level.
We had Pat Gillick on our podcast, shameless plug for it, backstage we're going to Brazer, but he was telling us that, and Pat knows people, like he knows what drives somebody and who's going to be a good teammate. He said he would literally talk to clubhouse guys, like Phil Sheridan's our clubhouse guy, receptionist, Kelly Adario, right? How you treat the, everyday people, especially a clubhouse guy. Clubhouse guy is the guy is it's getting him jerseys and all that, and they need the clubhouse guy, but you can also kind of
how you treat a human being.
Right, it's how you treat a human being, and that's a big, but he said before I sign somebody, I might have somebody check, maybe not himself, Pat, but somebody else will call and say, call the Reds clubhouse guy. I want to see how so-and-so, is as a person. How does he deal with somebody that's, again, not like a baseball player, but somebody else.
I do the same thing.
Right.
Because if I'm going to put, myself on the line,
endorsement,
and I'm like, hey, I really like this guy, guess what? Let me make a few calls. I know a few of the clubhouse people or people that work at different places, and you're just like, look, what type of guy is he? I don't care about anything else.
Right.
I just need to know the type of guy and just be honest. And look, I've got mixed reviews on certain guys, and I'm like, okay, but I have to put that in a report and just say, hey, this is the one concern in talking to so-and-so within this organization, or like whether it's the clubhouse people, but I never would put names to anything.
Right.
Because you don't ever want to do that. So your sources, you're sourcing it out, but those sources better be trustworthy.
Right. You got to know them.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know you cover the Phillies as one of your teams. How many teams do you have?
I have a total of 18. So I have the Phillies complete organization all the way down to A-ball, the Washington Nationals all the way down to A-ball, and then I have our own New York Yankees club, but I go from the major leagues all the way down to the Dominican. So I'm seeing our whole system, and we're trying to separate and pick who we like the best and who we feel has a chance to make it to New York.
So you have three organizations.
Correct.
And 18
teams total, plus I go to Japan for 2 weeks. So there's another.
Because you played over there.
Yes, I played there, Japan, and I've been to Korea a couple of times. So, you're looking for the best talent that can really impact a major league club.
Right. How about Japan? How about I want to get into your whole career.
No, we can talk so much about Japan.
I know. Well, just that one story, and I think I might have told this story on this show, but Charlie Manuel, obviously was a superstar hitter over there, big home run hitter. In fact, he used to battle Sadahara O for the home run hitting championship over there. Right, they call him Akinoni, right? Or
the Red Devil,
right? Whatever, Akioni.
I can't remember all of it.
I think it's Akioni.
He might even speak the language because he was over there for so long.
Well, again, I'm going to tell the story and I think you were at fantasy camp there.
Oh, he's saying his song.
But I had asked Charlie, and again, hopefully it's not a repeat, but I asked Charlie the day before, just coincidentally, I said, Charlie, you spent all those years in Japan. Can you still read Japanese? Can you speak it? He said, he's very humble, and he's like, well, not really. I can read a little bit, but not. But. And he's telling me he's telling me maybe one word at a time. Someone talk to me, maybe pick up a word, blah blah blah. So he's telling me all this. A day later, we're at bull session in fantasy camp, and that's where any camper can ask a question to any of the legends like yourself, Tommy, everybody else.
That can get dangerous at times.
And someone said, hey, Charlie, I know you played in Japan for a long time. I know every American had a song specifically for them, and they'd sing the song when you're coming up to bat. Do you remember your song? And so I'm very interested because I just, again, kind of asked him a similar question a day earlier.
That's right up your alley.
And he stands up. Do you remember this?
Yes.
You couldn't hear a pin drop. Charlie stands up. He said, here you go. Yeah. He goes, and he's singing for a minute in Japanese.
Yeah.
And everybody is stunned. Nobody even pulled out a phone, because I didn't, because everybody was so stunned. They're watching Charlie Manuel sing in Japanese. Yes. And and then he got a standing ovation. We're like, oh my God, that was like a thing of beauty right there.
It was awesome.
I tell you what, it's crazy. It's such a fun experience. Like I tell people, if there's one place you want to go. It's a bucket list type of a place. Go if you're a baseball fan.
Right. Just a tourist.
You go in and you're like, wow, it's so positive. But it's kind of a little bit of like Latin America where they're playing all these instruments, but it's not as crazy as that,
right.
And everybody's pretty much all within, and they have their own little sections in right field and left field where all those bands are at.
Right.
And they're playing, and then this person comes up, and then they tweak just the names. And they sing those songs, and
right.
then, it was crazy. It was a lot of fun, and it's going all the way through. You're throwing pitches,
right.
and it's not like quiet here where they can't play music. They're just sitting there banging their drums,
right.
singing, pumping on the horns. I mean, it's a blast, but you don't really see any booing. So
right.
People might get a little bored with
right.
from around here, but it's an amazing.
All right, I want to get into that, and I want to get into your whole career, and also then again, I've got scouting reports. I want to talk to you about how you would scout the Phillies, if you're allowed to give up any secrets. And then I'll tell you some of these cool scouting reports. We got a lot to talk about. You're listening to the Bull Session presented by BCWSA with Chickies and Pizza South Philadelphia, Brandon Duckworth and Tommy Greene.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie Pete's. Our selection of seasonal cocktails make any meal better. Come sip and enjoy our bourbon cherry lemonade, made with small batch bourbon, muddled fruits, and refreshing juices. What a winner! Is fruit your flavor? Try a watermelon shandy cocktail. A smoky grapefruit with mezcal and fresh lime. Or sip and enjoy a very berry martini. All pair perfectly with our seasonal menu features. Come sip and enjoy at Chickies and Pete's.
Head out to Dion Square, located at South Oxford Valley and South Olds Boulevard, to get all your essentials in one place, with the following businesses ready to serve you: Pat Dion Beverages, CVS Pharmacy, Hair Cuttery, Smile Culture Dental, Biomat, Liberty Auto Tags, Pennsylvania Fine Wine and Spirits, Lee's Hoagie House, R&J Smoothies and Juices, AutoZone, and First National Bank and Trust of Newtown. Make Dion Square your one stop for all your shopping needs at South Oxford Valley Road and South Olds Boulevard in Fairless Hills.
With over 7,200 square feet of 200 brewers in stock at all times, Pat Dion Beverages now features 5 different flavors of their favorite slushy cocktails. You can also purchase all your wine, liquor, and other fine spirits right next door. Visit us on Facebook or online at patdionbeverages.com for upcoming events and samples from your favorite brewery or local food vendor.
Think banking hasn't changed? Think again. At Penn Community Bank, we've been helping communities thrive for 150 years. From our nationally recognized Access Checking that offers the peace of mind of no overdrafts, to student and free checking plus options with perks that will make you wonder what you did without them, like early direct deposit, overdraft grace, and Zelle. Learn more at penncommunitybank.com/products. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Ask for full details. Member FDIC.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Bull Session. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies Director of Fun and Games, John Brazer, and Tommy Greene.
All right, we are back to the Bull Session presented by BCWSA, live from Chickies and Pete's in South Philly. I'm John Brazer, joined by Tommy Greene and Brandon Duckworth. And Tommy, last week I did it with Mickey Morandini at
with Mo, huh?
in Marlton, New Jersey, and I didn't have a voice. I think allergies basically almost took my voice. So my voice was cracking.
That's a bad day at the yard, man.
It's a bad day.
You with no voice?
But it was fun because we had Milt Thompson on. But this is fun too because we have one of our favorites, Brandon Duckworth. All right, Brandon, let's go through your career. Okay, so you grew up in Utah, and you went to a couple of community colleges. Then you ended up at Cal State Fullerton, as we mentioned, with Aaron Rowan.
Big time program out there.
Aaron Rowan. And you got drafted twice, but you didn't sign. And you figured it would be better to go as a free agent than go into the pool because they didn't reach what you wanted, right?
Yeah, I think the big thing was I kind of lucked into that, to be honest with you, because they came in and they're like, yeah, we're going to draft you in this round, and I was like, wait a minute, this is a lot later than everybody was telling me.
Yeah.
And there was other unforeseen things that I knew way back then, coming from coaches and whatnot. So because usually they like to keep their guys for a few years, and so I would have been a senior and we would have had a chance at the College World Series, but it just didn't make sense financially. I'm just like, why would I sign for that when I can go back to school, have my degree done, sign for basically the same thing? I'm a year, out of, would I rather go play? Yeah. Right. But then again, I would have had my degree and I would have been done and so on and so forth. But then
hard to go back when
it really
once
is.
You leave.
Even then, so I bypassed it. I just told people, don't draft me.
Right.
Don't. I'm going to go back to school, and then I go and play in the Cape, and lo and behold, that's where former Phillies scout Dick Lawler, God rest his soul, he saw me. I think it was a game. I think I punched out 9 straight guys. And then all of a sudden, it got heated, and then he's like, come on, let's
fire.
go.
The flame was pouring gas on it.
Going back to your point, you never know who's going to be there at a game.
And if anybody saw the movie Summer Catch, is it like that? Is it fun as a baseball player?
Oh, it's
you obviously have a job to do, but you're also living up in the Cape in the summer, which is really fun.
It was phenomenal.
I have no clue about that. You got to explain.
Well, it was great. The Cape's amazing. Yes, I did have a job at a place called Star Market up there, but I was packing freezers, so we'd do that during the day. We'd pay our the lady that we lived with some money, and then we'd go play our games. But the games were a blast.
It's like Americana. It really is. They sell merchandise on the
Summer Catch was a little sensationalized.
Right, of course.
I didn't meet no Jessica Biel. I met my own Jessica Biel once I made it to the big leagues.
You got better than Jessica Biel.
Exactly.
You're like,
so I'm like, So, but it was truly a blast, and there's a lot of things that you're like, okay, yes, that did happen, or it could happen.
Right.
There's some crazy stuff, but it was an absolute blast.
Anytime when you get that many college guys in the same area doing the same thing,
and great,
it can be
fun,
a good time.
And you're usually at that point in time, it was the best place for
any
any college
it's a
player to
bad
go
league.
to.
Oh, it's a wooden bag league and great athletes.
Yep, you were the best of the collegiate world in being underclassmen. So everybody went there. If you got there, you were something, and a lot of guys went on to play pro ball. Maybe they ended up playing at the big league level, but depending upon injuries and so on and so forth, and just kind of where everything went.
All right, so
that way, I want to add a little bit to that because I was fortunate enough to be involved. It wasn't the Cape; it was the SCBL, the Southern Collegiate Baseball League, which was down basically in North Carolina, South Carolina, in that area. Also, giving opportunities for guys who couldn't play in the Cape, so to speak, a chance to play. And one of my guys that I was able to get, and I really liked him, he was a freshman and ended up playing for him, was Ryan Lavarnaway.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
he was a teammate of mine.
And he could hit a little bit back there. You could say he's special. This kid's going to have a
good
chance. He wasn't playing. He wasn't a catcher there. No, he was an outfielder, first baseman type. Because he's a big guy.
Dude.
Yeah.
Funny story about him. We played together in AAA and with the Red Sox organization. So when I was towards the end of my career, I was there, but he came up from AA and he lit it on fire. We were calling him Baby Ruth because he was every big hit. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, he could hit a little bit back then, man.
It was unbelievable. But moving on to what you were talking about, there's multiple places to play in the summer, and I was fortunate enough to play in 3 different places. I played in the Jayhawk League, which was another good one. I played in Alaska, so I got to play in the midnight
that scenery.
The midnight sun game up in Fairbanks. It was awesome. I loved Alaska. Alaska and the Cape were
and you probably had 2 hours of sunlight, right?
No, you were.
I'm sorry. I meant darkness
at night. Yeah, and
2 hours of darkness.
The midnight sun, it went very dusk,
right?
Just barely, and then still 24-hour sun, but it was a blast.
All right, so you signed with the Phillies in 1997, right? You make your debut in 2001 against the Padres, right?
Yep.
At Vet Stadium. Now on that team, first of all, you have Boa as your first manager.
And is that when J-Ro come up?
He was the year before.
But but I know in a couple years it was Chase's debut, 2003. No, that was when you had basically Johnny Estrada, Travis Lee, Marlon Anderson, J-Roll. J-Roll was on that 2001 team, right?
Yep. Roland was there.
Roland, Pepperell, Glanville, Abreu. And I know, like, in the rotation was Robert Person, Omar Dahl, Randy Wolf, Coggin,
Wolfie.
Duckworth. I'm sorry, you. Bruce Chen, Telemaco, Figueroa. And the funny thing is, remember this was starting because of Randy Wolf. They started doing all the fan groups.
Yeah, like the Wolf Pack and
Yeah. So that was actually really.
We didn't have that.
No, you didn't. But
We
if
didn't
you
have
remember,
none of
some
that.
of the ones I made a list of some of them. You had the Wolf Pack that started it all.
Yep.
And you had two. You had the Duck Pond.
Yep.
Right. And you also had the Quack
Duck Blind.
And you had the Quack Pack.
Yep.
Did you have the Quack Pack?
Quack Pack, the Duck Pond. I remember my debut. I think someone was running around in a duck outfit.
Is that right?
Oh man,
That's just inviting the lunatics to come out. Man.
Well, but it was on Vogue. Like literally every time we brought up a player, we got a player, a free agent, traded for a player. You know, you had the Wolfpack, you had Sal's Pals, you had Mesa's Faces, you had Myers Maniacs.
That fit.
Yes.
Yes.
You had Leeby's Legion. You had Placido's Amigos. You had Utley's Uglies. You had Bell's Bell, right? David Bell. You had the Pratt Pack, right? That was creative. You had Millwood's Militia. You had Turk Wendell, Turk's Turkeys. You had
You had some strangeness about him.
I'm still good friends with him.
With
Talk
the,
all
with
the
the
time.
puka shells.
Yep.
Bird's Nest. That was Marlon,
Yep.
not Paul. You had Tommy's Homies. You had
That's a good one.
Padilla's Flotilla.
That was a good
That
one,
was one
too.
of my favorite ones.
What was it?
Padilla's Flotilla. And the
Padilla
guys would literally
Flotilla.
have oars.
Oars.
And they'd,
Oh, okay.
And they'd like do like Hawaiian 5-0,
Yep.
Hawaii 5-0 thing. You had Giambi Zombies. You had Burl's Squirrels. Not really sure of that one. You also had Burl's Girls.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Well, the squirrels.
Go figure.
I can see.
You
I
had,
can see it.
You had J. Rose Bros, and then they figured out it's actually not J. Rowe, it's J.
J-Roll.
So then
Yeah.
they had to switch up there. You had Terry Adams, the Adams Family. You had Coggin's Corner. You had, this is a good one. He wasn't really a well-known player, but Joe Roa had Roa Boat, right? Right. You had the Omar. You had the Dollhouse, right? And then you had,
I dig that.
and you had the Chen Pen.
Did you say Person's People?
Oh, I forgot Person's People. It was like one guy.
Yep.
It was one guy, Person's People.
Now, look at our crew. What would be the group for Cruck?
Well, Crucky had one.
He legit could be Crucky's Hillbillies or something like that because he's from
Crucky had one.
West Virginia, right?
Yeah, he's from up there.
Crucky's.
But you know who would probably get that? Me, because Liam Mazzoni nicknamed me Jethro.
Oh boy.
And I'm from the coast of North Carolina. I'm a beach guy. You know.
Oh man.
What? Crucky had one. I forget what they were. I'm going to have to look it up during the break. But that was actually pretty fun, though. Fun time.
That was a great
That
time.
sounded like it was, but all that everybody had a pack.
I tell you what, that is what truly is so much fun about Philadelphia is how they get involved. And, you know, a lot of people give it a hard time because they're very passionate. They feel like they are on the field with you, but there's no better place to win, as we've seen.
Right.
You know, unfortunately, I wasn't part of a World Series team here.
Right, but you were a winning team. I mean, you were 86, 76 your first year.
But
right?
what makes that statement so true is Citizens Bank.
Right.
That allows the fans to feel like they're part.
Yes.
100%.
They're able to be so close to you.
And the
You
vet,
know,
even
and
though
vet was totally
and the vet was
totally
impersonal, but I think the fan groups did help and some other
Yes.
things we had. So, yeah, you guys were 86, 76 your first year, 2001. You were 86, 76 your second year, I believe, right?
That's
And,
called consistency, dude.
No, I'm sorry. You were 80 and 81. Which is weird because I guess there must have been a rain out and you guys were already out of it.
Yeah, there was
they
something
didn't, so they didn't
weird.
make it up. You were 80 and 81 in 2002.
And then
2003, you're 86 and 76. You're 5 games back from the Marlins for the wild card. But that was the last year of the vet, and you guys just signed Jim Tomey.
Yep.
Right? So Tomey was your teammate. His first year with the Phillies, your last
My
year.
last year.
But how cool is that, being the last year of the vet? I remember we had all these celebrations.
Yep.
We had people
I was there for the
putting down
final.
a number each time, right? It was
it was great, and you see all the guys that came back, and right there at the end when you had Tugger and that whole thing, and it was truly fun.
That was awesome.
And I don't want to say you take it for granted, but you don't realize what's happening,
right.
You know, until afterward you're like, man.
I felt privileged, to be there the last day because I represented the 90s. And I was fortunate enough. I got I wore the uniform, the jersey down in. I think it's the same uniform they gave me. I was able to keep it.
Event?
No, I wore it this past weekend down at the Doodah.
Oh, okay.
You know, when I was the parade down there. I don't wear it often.
You were the Grand Poobah this weekend?
I was the Grand Poobah down there. But
Grand Poobah, the Doodah.
Mickey
parade.
was last year, but it was an honor being with the guys representing the I guess the era of the vet.
Yes.
You know, it was there because that was my big league stadium, you know. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed every day I spent in it because it was mine. I mean, that's where I really enjoyed being there. Yeah, I've played in Atlanta too, but it's nothing like Philly, man.
And I tell you what, it's phenomenal, and I think, you know, I've had the good fortune on the scouting side to go into the vet during all the playoffs, into the World Series, and I've told everybody, our own front office, other scouts, other people, I'm like, this is truly the 10th man on a team.
Right.
Because you will not find an atmosphere like this place and how this place rocks.
Yep.
I don't care what they say.
See your red,
and I played in Houston when it was really loud when we went to the series and stuff, but this takes the cake.
No,
like, it's
it
a
does.
whole different animal, and scouts were looking at me and other people that had never been here for that. They're like, I see what you're saying.
Right.
Because, I mean, it's amazing. People don't stop. They stand the whole time. Like,
Oh,
they
yeah.
are invested.
I remember I was at the World Series, and happened to be I was in the stands, me and my wife. And my wife couldn't. She's not a tall person.
Neither's mine.
You know, had good seats. You know, it was right behind, basically almost right behind the dugout, just at the corner of the third base dugout. You know, and we didn't sit the whole time.
Yep.
And she couldn't see. She had to stand on the seat.
Yep. All right.
You know, I mean, it stood the whole time, and it was so loud.
Well, you know what's cool? I was thinking, too, from a scouting point of view, and I want to get into that next segment. From the scouting point of view, if a player can thrive with the pressures of Philadelphia, the media pressure, the fan pressure, if you can thrive in Philadelphia, I imagine that's a big part of the scouting report. Oh, this guy it doesn't matter what conditions, good and bad, you know, that if this guy can survive Philadelphia, he can play in any market.
Yeah.
Nothing rattles him.
No.
Well, especially since you're doing it for the Yankees.
100%.
And guys could
huge,
do
too.
great, the Padres and for the Royals or for the, Orioles, but put him in New York, put him in Philly, put him in Boston, and that's a different animal.
100%. Those are the three places you're like, can he play? That's the biggest question that we get. Like,
right.
We can sit there and we can say, oh, this guy can do this, this, and this, and they're like, but can they handle the pressure of New York?
Right.
And
all that comes with that.
That's probably the toughest question we have to answer because nobody knows. Like, we've had, in the course of time, guys come through, a Randy Johnson that was like, whoa, this is a little different. And the competitor he was.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, there's certain guys that are made for it, and there's certain
Other
guys that aren't.
Some guys are, I guess as ball players and scouts, do you call it soft? Soft to the environment because it's a harsh environment.
Harsh.
And it's not meaning soft in a bad way. It's just the makeup is more. He takes everything to heart. I mean that type of thing.
Yeah.
Or does he let this roll off his back?
Yeah.
Type thing. A guy that can do that's got a better chance of surviving. Dealing with the what he's hearing.
As we say, do they have thick skin?
Right.
Yeah.
Is this a guy that's easily swayed by the voices in the stands or the newspapers? I mean, how many times do you say when we were here, like, don't read the newspapers?
Oh, God,
ever.
I didn't.
But there are sometimes you're walking, you look, and there's I remember I had one bad game, and I my head was down. It was a picture, and it said roasted duck. I had to laugh.
That's a good one.
It was a good one, but
because you let water off your back.
Right? But
Dude.
it is what it is. But if you can get through that and understand that, and I think back in the day, they would try to help us with that.
Right.
Coming through the minor leagues, and then you would go to, the prospect stuff down in D.C. where they would try to help you.
The biggest thing, I think, advice, I got a couple things.
We got to go to break, so you got to be quick.
Okay,
Tommy.
Leo Mazzoni. I had him all the way up, basically, through the minor leagues, except my rookie ball year. He says, big thing, don't be in all of the situation around you. The game's not played this way. It's played in front of you, right here, you and your catcher. That's your game. Mm-hmm. Don't get caught here and everything out there. How to block that out. Next thing, one of the best lines John Kruk ever had. If you're worried about the boos you're hearing all that crap, he said, only one way to stop it. Play better.
Play better. Yep.
That was one of the best ones ever.
All right.
100%.
Coming up on the show, we'll get into I've got some scouting reports from some major players over the years, and I want to get your perspective, both your perspectives, when I tell you some of these guys. It's pretty funny when you look back on it. And then I kind of want to get you to kind of start dissecting the Phillies team since it's one of 3 teams you're covering. We'll come back with that. Our guests, Brandon Duckworth and Tommy Greene. You're listening to the Bull Session presented by BCWSA. We're live from Chickies and Pete's in South Philly.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky Pete's. Our selection of seasonal cocktails make any meal better. Come sip and enjoy our bourbon cherry lemonade, made with small batch bourbon, muddled fruits, and refreshing juices. What a winner! Is fruit your flavor? Try a watermelon shandy cocktail. A smoky grapefruit with mezcal and fresh lime. Or sip and enjoy a berry martini. All pair perfectly with our seasonal menu features. Come sip and enjoy at Chickies and Pete's.
Head out to Dion Square, located at South Oxford Valley and South Olds Boulevard, to get all your essentials in one place, with the following businesses ready to serve you: Pat Dion Beverages, CVS Pharmacy, Hair Cuttery, Smile Culture Dental, Biomat, Liberty Auto Tags, Pennsylvania Fine Wine and Spirits, Lee's Hoagie House, R&J Smoothies and Juices, AutoZone, and First National Bank and Trust of Newtown. Make Dion Square your one stop for all your shopping needs at South Oxford Valley Road and South Olds Boulevard in Fairless Hills.
With over 7,200 square feet of 200 brewers in stock at all times, Pat Dion Beverages now features 5 different flavors of their favorite slushy cocktails. You can also purchase all your wine, liquor, and other fine spirits right next door. Visit us on Facebook or online at patdionbeverages.com for upcoming events and samples from your favorite brewery or local food vendor.
Think banking hasn't changed? Think again. At Penn Community Bank, we've been helping communities thrive for 150 years. From our nationally recognized Access Checking that offers the peace of mind of no overdrafts, to student and free checking plus options with perks that will make you wonder what you did without them, like early direct deposit, overdraft grace, and Zelle. Learn more at penncommunitybank.com/products. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Ask for full details. Member FDIC.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Bull Session. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies Director of Fun and Games, John Brazer, and Tommy Greene.
All right, we are back to the Bull Session presented by BCWSA Live, Chickies and Pete's in South Philadelphia. I'm John Brazer, joined by Tommy Greene and our guest, Brandon Duckworth. All right, Brandon, you were a pro scout for the New York Yankees. And I told you I was going to find some old scouting reports of some of the players. This is actually it's really interesting. So we'll go to George Brett. Okay, he drafted out of high school, age 17, back in 1971. So it says, has nice fluid movement, his fielding shows sure hands. He says, carries his hands extremely high, as does Yastrzemski. This is not for him, as he has trouble pulling the ball when there is mustard on it, right? He says, I believe that if he drops his hands back, he'll be able to pull the good stuff. So I guess he dropped it down, or did
he made an adjustment.
He made an adjustment. That's the thing. A lot of guys, that's what it's all about. It's a game of adjustments. And the high hands, that creates a loop in the swing because now, for every action, there's that reaction. And then flatter path, all of a sudden now you can adjust the barrel and do different things, and he could catch up to the good velocity.
All right, Kevin Brown, Georgia Tech.
He might have had the nastiest stuff I've ever seen.
It says tall, thin, strong body, broad shoulders, long arms.
Who's this?
Kevin Brown.
Oh, God.
It says a competitor, a little mean if he has to be. Slows arm in motion on change, does not have know-how that Swindell has, okay?
Well,
so
that's time.
Again, I guess you got to look for some,
and that's a pretty good scout report right there to hit him right on the button.
Nomar Garciaparra was more like needs strength. Everything else was great.
Well, he was small coming in, wasn't he?
This is interesting. Roger Clemens, who is probably one of the top 10 pitchers ever, right, in baseball.
Yeah.
It says good, strong pitcher's body. University of Texas, by the way.
Yeah.
Has a good arm. Fastball had average velocity.
That was back then.
Curve is good rotation. Slider was sharp. Control was only fair. Didn't see a straight change. Fastball doesn't have much movement when in strike zone. And talk about how slider could be a good pitch for him.
What's crazy is
he had surgery in Texas, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
He did a shoulder,
I'm not sure.
I think
he's shortened up, but like back in the day, and we adjusted to it. Now we can measure the type of movements, right? So back then, if it was a true fastball, they said, "Oh, it's flat." Well, now we understand the riding principles and how it holds the plane.
It holds the plane. It looks like it hops.
And how you can actually put a grade on it. Like it was maybe the past 10 years that we finally have started to figure those things out.
Right.
But he was primarily breaking ball to get over. Here's your fastball, and here's your put away split. He learned to split as he got into pro ball.
The way you look at it as scouting, I think, what's his ball do when it hits the dirt?
Yes.
I mean, from the pitcher's mound when he hits the dirt coming to home plate. What is it? Some guys got this. Some guys got it hops. He's got that something,
well, then, as you said,
something different.
Yes.
And some guys learn a pitch, as you just said.
Yes.
Roger Clemens is a splitter. Or Mariano Rivera. Like, I don't have his scouting report, but Mariano Rivera, as a pro, develops the cutter, which is pretty unique. And he basically was a two-pitch pitcher. But, he's a closer, too. He was so good at those two pitches that he could get away with it.
Okay.
He was a starter coming up.
Well, I mean, what does he say in there? And as a scout, why can't he do that? He had command.
Right. Yep.
He had and why did Roger end up doing what he? Command.
Yep.
And
exactly
his fastball got better.
See, when I played
that scout report
when I played with Rocket down in Houston, I remember sitting in a pen. He's like, "Hey, can you just stand in the box? I want to do a few things." And just seeing how meticulous he was about his craft and what he was trying to do, the smallest little things. And I mean, I was dumbfounded. He didn't miss a spot. It was knees and below. Like he was working on a balance point. He would stop. And you would even see it in games where he never used to go over his head, as he got older. Yeah. But then sometimes he'd go over his head to slow himself down.
Yeah.
Like he was making those changes within the game.
In the game.
But he was unbelievable. And talk about a presence. Like he walks into a room, he talks. He was one of those guys that you just automatically, he drew your attention.
Right.
There's guys
we had
that
the same
just
agent, so I got to meet Roger, spend some time with him when I was young.
All right, Ken Griffey Jr., immature at times, right? But rare combination of speed, power, instincts. Similar style, but much better than Barry Bonds at same stage. But it says, doesn't utilize outstanding natural ability all the time. Right, so
he had a little bit of dog in him. That's what he's saying.
But he's 17 years old.
Yeah, he had a little dog
at this
in
time.
Yeah, he's like, I don't have to really go hard right now.
I know what I can do.
How about this one? Oral Hershiser. Hershiser at a Bowling Green in 1979. Now, Oral Hershiser played ice hockey on a star travel team that ended up doing really well in the Nationals out of Philadelphia. I don't know if you knew that.
He was tall.
Star ice hockey player.
Too.
Wow.
On the Little Flyers. But how about this one? No command or control. Right? Oral Hershiser says, fastball lacking velocity for big man, doesn't throw curveball properly, didn't like arm action as he labors through the throwing zone, delivery inconsistent through several wild pitches, looks like he rattles easily. Now, he was picked in the 17th round by the Dodgers. Man, that was... I guess maybe that
is that scout. How long did he keep that job?
Yeah, how long?
Which scout saw him, and then was that a cross checker?
Yeah,
right. Randy Johnson.
I want to talk about
Randy Johnson, stork-like body, tallest pitcher I've ever scouted. No concept yet, just a thrower. Johnson is like a box of Cracker Jacks. There's a surprise inside. Our only problem is whether or not we will like the surprise, right?
I gotta use that. I gotta use that one.
That's old school scout.
Has no pitching mechanics. With his long arms, could eventually bury all left-handed hitters. A real gamble.
I tell you what.
Right?
Now you talk about two guys right there. We'll talk last one. We'll talk about Johnson. Now you probably know a little bit more. He was out of USC, right?
Yep.
And I played with some guys that played with him and said he was throwing like 83.
Really?
Yeah, like his sophomore year or something like that or whatever. And then he come back the next year and it was like,
whoa, what?
What happened here? Turned the light on.
Yep.
And then it got better and better and better.
And that's those big, tall guys that just don't know how to sequence and their body movement patterns. Just all of a sudden, once they start to click, then everything starts to come out.
Well, you can look at Sanchez right now a little bit.
I'll tell you what. I'll go on to Sanchez as we talk.
Well, I want to talk about the current team in the last segment.
Yep.
But I want to say something about Oral. Now, with him, that scouting report right there.
Right.
It was all about, how much movement he had.
Yep.
And And one of the things I think it made him so great, and he pitched well in Dodger Stadium all the time. Why do you think that? I've never seen the dirt in front of home plate so soft in my life, you know? And there was times I saw after that, when he pitched, it was so soft, it did not – it was like it deadened it. You couldn't get one through the infield
Maddox
off
was
of
the
it.
same way. Those guys in Atlanta.
And then and the other guys, they wouldn't do nothing to it. And it bounced like it was hitting this concrete floor. It bounced over the infield.
Speaking of Maddox, it said at a high school, Las Vegas, I really believe that this boy would possibly be the number one player taken in the country if only he looked a little bit more physical.
That's
right?
so true.
It says he has a big league curveball right now, though he needs to be a little more consistent with it. If available, when we select in the second round, this is the Cubs, I would be surprised we'd be getting a first-round guy. Okay?
And then he was a dirt dauber, man. He looked like Mr. Peabody, played like the Hulk.
We got some good stories about that boy.
Yeah,
I'll give you like the Hulk.
I'll give you one last one. This is on Cal Ripken at Aberdeen High, right? So, and this was as a pitcher. Okay?
Wow.
He scouted Cal Ripken as a pitcher. And it said tall, rangy, good athletic body, poised, polished, good tight rotation on curve, straight change, major league now. Delivery coordination good, competitive command of pitches, very good for 17-year-old. Throws weak slider when he does not need, which he does not need. Fastball needs another foot on it to be major league. All he needs is pitching experience in pro ball and a bit faster. How about that? And he was drafted the second round as a shortstop.
Yep.
But that was a scouting report as a pitcher.
A big shortstop.
Yeah, big short. All right. Coming back, we'll take a break right now, but when we come back for the last segment, let's get your assessment on the Fightin' Phils, the current team right now. Whatever you're allowed to give away on air, you don't have to give away any secrets, but we'll go through.
I won't give you grades, but I can give you a little bit of synopsis.
Okay, we'll do that.
I can be constructive.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Not destructive.
You're listening to the Bull Session presented by BCWSA live from Chickies and Pete's in South Philadelphia.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky Pete's. Our selection of seasonal cocktails make any meal better. Come sip and enjoy our bourbon cherry lemonade, made with small batch bourbon, muddled fruits, and refreshing juices. What a winner! Is fruit your flavor? Try a watermelon shandy cocktail. A smoky grapefruit with mezcal and fresh lime. Or sip and enjoy a berry martini. All pair perfectly with our seasonal menu features. Come sip and enjoy at Chickies and Pete's.
Head out to Dion Square, located at South Oxford Valley and South Olds Boulevard, to get all your essentials in one place, with the following businesses ready to serve you: Pat Dion Beverages, CVS Pharmacy, Hair Cuttery, Smile Culture Dental, Biomat, Liberty Auto Tags, Pennsylvania Fine Wine and Spirits, Lee's Hoagie House, R&J Smoothies and Juices, AutoZone, and First National Bank and Trust of Newtown. Make Dion Square your one stop for all your shopping needs at South Oxford Valley Road and South Olds Boulevard in Fairless Hills.
With over 7,200 square feet of 200 brewers in stock at all times, Pat Dion Beverages now features 5 different flavors of their favorite slushy cocktails. You can also purchase all your wine, liquor, and other fine spirits right next door. Visit us on Facebook or online at patdionbeverages.com for upcoming events and samples from your favorite brewery or local food vendor.
Think banking hasn't changed? Think again. At Penn Community Bank, we've been helping communities thrive for 150 years. From our nationally recognized Access Checking that offers the peace of mind of no overdrafts, to student and free checking plus options with perks that will make you wonder what you did without them, like early direct deposit, overdraft grace, and Zelle. Learn more at PennCommunityBank.com/products. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Ask for full details. Member FDIC.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Bull Session. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies Director of Fun and Games, John Brazer, and Tommy Greene.
All right, we are back to the Bull Session presented by BCWSA live from Chickies and Pete's in South Philadelphia. My co-host, Tommy Greene, our guest, Brandon Duckworth. All right, Brandon, we had you listen to the scouting reports from some of the famous players throughout the years, which is always very interesting. But let's talk about, as you mentioned, you have 3 teams, the Nationals, us, and the Yankees, right? So I want to talk about let's go first in the amateur because you do cover our single A, double A, triple A. Are you allowed to tell some of the guys that you like down low,
like the minor leagues?
Who stands out without giving any secrets? Like, do you like this Arun?
I wouldn't say amateur.
I haven't
I'd
seen
say minor league.
I haven't
seen Arun Escobar.
Yet. I actually see him this upcoming week, so I've never seen him live.
How about Gabriel Rincones?
Rincones, I've seen.
You like
That's
him?
a good body right there.
He can swing it.
Justin Crawford, rumored to be possibly up here at some point.
I just finished watching AAA, and just when a lot of people say, he's not going to hit, I think he's going to hit. He makes contact. The kid can flat out run.
How big is he? He's 6'3", isn't he?
He's 6'3". He's long and lanky, you know, so he's got room to fill out.
How big was his dad?
His dad was
He
about.
wasn't as big as that.
No, but his dad was stocky.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'll bet you his dad was 6 foot, 6'1", but he was put together.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, how much does he weigh now, Crawford, the kid?
I'm not
he's
sure.
probably 175 pounds.
And he's how old?
22, I think.
So
21.
So he's got room to get to
He's got room, but then if he fills out a lot,
then
he's
lose
going
a little speed.
Lose a little speed. But it's still, he's a guy that's going to be more contact oriented. The swing isn't like pretty on the eyes, but it works.
Hey, neither was Pete Rose's.
Right?
And defensively?
Defensively, he's still progressing.
Okay.
He just needs reps. But,
right.
He plays a decent center field, and he can play left field. But tell you what, he's going to be a force on the base paths in all capacities. He can run the bases. He puts pressure on the defense and still in bases.
Could be like a Michael Bourne.
Yeah.
When you look at guys, I mean, you're talking about guys, not being pretty, the knack of putting bat to ball. Mm-hmm. They got the ability, really, not to swing and miss a lot.
Yep.
To make that's a huge factor, man.
And I think with him, it looks that way just because he hasn't gotten the strength that you're waiting for.
Right.
Well, everybody's wanting to drive it. Everybody's wanting them to
100%.
friggin', to do things.
Most guys
can't do that.
Most of them don't start to truly fill out that are real athletic like that until probably you're right in your mid-20s. That's when your man strength comes around.
Yeah.
So there's probably more in there, but the kid, I mean, he has proven it time and time again. Just when people try to doubt him, he makes it work, and I really don't care.
He hits 300 about
all right,
wherever
last
he goes.
one on the amateur one. How about Aiden Miller?
Aiden Miller was one of my favorite players last year, and he's got a chance to be really good. I think he can stay at shortstop, and I'll see him once he's at AA. I know they're pushing some of these kids pretty quick, but he was, from what I remember reading on him and hearing some of the amateur guys say, he was the best high school bat in the draft.
But he broke his hamate.
That's what kind of put him back. So
we got lucky with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I watched video on him, and then I saw him live, and I liked him better live than I did on video.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you got to set.
Yeah,
sometimes you got to let your eyes see.
It's
video doesn't do it all.
Nobody thought he could play shortstop until you see him live. You're like, okay, you know what? He has a chance to be able to play shortstop.
All right, let's go with the current team right now. Obviously, we're going a little bit of offensive swoon, but like Alec Boehm. I mean, Alec Boehm, you could almost write it in the book that he's going to have, 90 hit 285, hit 15 to 20 bombs, and drive in 100 RBIs.
Yeah, he's a hitter, man. He can really hit.
That's his knack.
That's his knack, and he's not trying to hit for power. I think some of these guys that are hitters first and they try to hit for power, I just think they're going against what they're made to do.
Yeah.
Right.
So the slump he's in right now he's too good of a hitter to make this last.
Yeah.
How about Marsh?
What would you say about that? What do you? I mean, I'm the constructive guy about somebody like Boehm. Not destructive, but constructive, because I think, I don't know if he's hearing a little bit of the ghosts that are from the past a little bit, because it can be hard here. You're talking about New York, you're talking about Philly, dealing with the fans, dealing with the press and stuff. When you're not doing what they think you should be doing, you're going to hear it.
I think he's also hitting into some bad luck. I mean, he's barreling up the ball, but right at people.
Yeah, and that's where the advanced analytics come in. If you start to dive deeper and just say, okay, well, exit velocities are there. What's the expected, the BABIPs, and all of those types of things.
Body language is huge.
100%.
That's what I watch.
Yep.
And then when I see in him sometimes, I was like, come on now. Hey, straighten up. Let's go. You know, I mean, because you don't want to see you done You know you're struggling a little bit, and we know that. Just keep pounding away. You'll be fine. You know?
How about the development of we'll go the other two daycare. Now they're graduating from daycare, but Marsh and
preschool.
Stott. Yeah, they're preschool.
Yeah. Well, Marsh has tools.
Kindergarten.
I mean, they traded Ohapi, who was arguably,
but he's done well for them.
He's done well, right? And I think Marsh has all the tools. It's just a matter of when's it going to click.
Right.
Like, I know.
And we've seen flashes.
You see flashes.
He's got some pop.
He's
too,
got
dude.
stupid pop.
Yeah.
And he can play defense.
Very
and he
athletic.
can run. Like, it's just a matter of time, and
I
whether
think
it happens here or somewhere else, we just don't know.
He's a good Philly guy. His attitude and the way he goes about his work. He's a
One of
hustler.
my favorite guys on
and
the
he
team.
goes, and it's all about if he starts having some success, it's going to.
He can take off.
He
He
can
can
go.
really
And
take off.
could you see Stott as our leadoff hitter at some point?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, when I watched him in the minor leagues, he controlled the zone so well, and I think he's gotten away from that a little bit. Last year, I think he got into pole happy, trying to hit for power.
Right.
But
he's
he got
always
a little bigger, if you ask me.
Yeah.
That's why he looked. But
And-
he was hurting last year.
Yes, exactly.
We didn't know that.
exactly.
What's the
And-
repercussions of that?
Right.
you know?
And so now, once again, that's where you're playing outside of the strength
Yeah.
of your game.
He's
you know.
always been good bat to ball
Yes,
guy.
always.
Since he come in.
Yep.
You know?
And his
Well-
power's actually to left center, I think.
Well, let's just hope the offense will come back. We're early. It's cold. Blah blah blah.
Oh, they will.
But
I hate
hopefully
to
they'll
see-
come back and starting. It's good to see the starting rotation, which has been phenomenal.
I hate to see zeros on the board like we had in St. Louis.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't like that at all.
Maybe this homestand against the Giants, who are a very good team, obviously.
Hey, they just beat up on us.
I know. So we'll see if that
Hey,
turns
they're
the
doing
tide.
butt whooping
Yep.
then.
All right. Well, that wraps up this week's Bull Session presented by BCWSA. I'd like to thank my co-host, Tommy Greene. Our guest today, Brandon Duckworth. Back in the studio, Gus Barber. And our on-site engineer, Chris Ermer. Thanks also to Pete and Tommy Cherokee and the great staff here at Chicks and Pete's in South Philadelphia for hosting us today. We're going to be back next Monday at 6 o'clock at Chicks and Pete's in Warrington, PA. And Tommy, you're back here, right?
3 miles from the house.
3 miles an hour. We're going to have special guest Jeff Manto, Tommy's teammate from the 1993 team. Have a great week, and as the late, great Harry Decay says,
We're out of here.